Kevin Brennan, Member of Parliament for Cardiff West, and very happy to be here this morning at the invitation of the Big Lottery Fund, as everyone else is as well, who've asked me just to come along and introduce this morning's session, and also really to have an opportunity, hopefully during the course of the next hour or so, to meet people who are here from various organisations from around the constituency and other parts of Cardiff and South Wales, but obviously particularly for me with a focus on Cardiff West, to talk to you about what you're doing so I can find out more about the activities of the organisations represented here today, who obviously are very interested to talk to representatives from the lottery about some of the opportunities that there may be to support what you do. And it's also a great opportunity to network with others here and perhaps to build the sorts of partnerships and alliances that are extremely useful to community organisations and third sector organisations and social enterprises and so on. So I'll just say a very few brief words, and then Dean I think will say a few brief words, and then we'll get things underway. As a constituency MP, I hold surgeries every week, and people come to see me, and obviously they get in touch with my office and so on. And you do get a very good taste and feeling for what is happening out in the community from the sorts of issues that are brought to you as an MP by constituents. I hold my surgeries, in fact, just across the road there in Ely Library every Saturday, as does Rodri Morgan. But we also run an office down in Transport House in Riverside on the main bus route, which people can come in and see my caseworker during the week if they've got issues that they need me to try and take up as their MP. But I know from that sort of activity how invaluable the work is of third sector organisations and community groups and faith groups and so on around Cardiff West to support people in the community with all the sorts of issues that arise, whether it's the need for advice, whether it's a need for practical support, whatever it is. And I also know from having visited many organisations how many have had support from the lottery, whether it's from the Big Lottery Fund, whether it's from the Heritage Lottery Fund in some cases, or from the Arts Council in other cases, and how invaluable that kind of support can be to organisations who are not necessarily cash rich, but are often very rich in ideas and expertise, in volunteers and professional expertise sometimes, but need that extra level of support to do what they do. And you don't need me to tell you, and I'm not going to make a political speech, but you don't need me to tell you that all of that is becoming much more difficult given the current environment of the cuts to public expenditure and government expenditure and council expenditure, and the influence and impact that that's going to have on all the organisations that A, get some support sometimes either from the lottery or from public expenditure, and B, when times are tough, are going to be having a bigger demand for their services. So you're facing that double whammy, if you like, the perfect storm of a bigger demand for the services that you provide that are so essential, and then a cut in resources at the same time. And we all know that in reality, important and invaluable as voluntary effort is and so on, and hugely important and welcome that it is, that you simply can't fill that whole gap simply through voluntary activity. You do need a partnership between the government, between local government, things like the Big Lottery, voluntary organisations, third sector organisations, social enterprises and so on, to be able to deliver. And as a local Member of Parliament, I ask my office to contact organisations in the constituency to see if they'd welcome a visit from me to come and see what they're doing in the community, and to see if there's ways that we can work together. And to give an example of that, in the last couple of weeks I visited the Cardiff Food Bank, based here in Lower Ely, to see what they were doing, and I think that generated a really good idea about how we could work in partnership when I have people come to my constituency surgery sometimes saying, I'm not going to receive my benefits for the next 6 weeks, I've got no money, how am I going to feed the family? We worked out that we can work together quite effectively, perhaps, for me to be able to support the work that they're doing to help people in that kind of situation. I'm sure there are many other linkages that we could make between you as a local member of parliament and you as the organisations that are out there working in the community. And if you would welcome that contact, then I certainly would, and I'd be happy to come along and discuss that with you. Lots of organisations have benefited from the lottery. It's a very important source of funding. Cardiff Food Bank's one example, actually, of an organisation that's benefited from lottery funding. There are large, very professional organisations like Chapter Arts Centre, who received in 2007 a grant of £1.75 million towards their redevelopment project, which I think, if anyone ever visits Chapter, you can see the impact that that's had, and I'm sure it's actually generating more revenue for the organisation because of that supportive investment. I know they're represented here today, and I visited them. Pedal Power, wonderful project based down in Pontcanna Fields by the caravan park there, if you know it, that gives opportunities for people with disabilities and able-bodied people as well to get out there on a bicycle and do what is, you know, probably one of the most healthy activities you could do. But it's wonderful to see the impact that that kind of project can have. A voluntary project starts off, as so often they do, but then becomes more and more professional and effective. And if you see some of the equipment they've got down there at Pedal Power, there's quite sophisticated equipment to support people with particular types of disabilities. You know, that does take support, it does take money, but it's a very, very worthwhile investment. And then the small sorts of grants that are offered also through the lottery, and there may be some organisations here today who've never had lottery funding before, and often can start off with a smaller grants program, and perhaps build up then the expertise and work with others towards applying for something a bit more strategic. These are difficult times, but I think that this kind of event is extremely useful to bring people together to make the most of what's available to us. And as I said in my remarks, if there's anything I can do to be of support as a local elected member of parliament to help that process, then please do get in touch, and you may find that my office will try and get in touch with you proactively as well to see if we can work together and see if we can come out and see the excellent work that you're undertaking. So, I don't want to talk much longer than that, except to hand you over to Dean, who's going to say a few words on behalf of the lottery about the